G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to part 2 of JANATHS team reveal and our mega preseason discussion. So hopefully you've already caught part 1. Wasn't there some great discussion and some information there? Part 2 is going to provide even more than that. And as you know, I'll also have the last 2 digits of the league code that I'll be giving out during this video. So hope you enjoy. We'll continue on with our discussion from the rucks. All right, mate. So let's get into this ruck line because I know that this has been giving me headaches, choosing between 2 particular players. But tell us about where you're going in the rucks.
All right. So I'll be honest here. I did start Darcy and Grundy when my rucks in the initial team. I was scared off by Gawn a bit, getting older. Might have a bit of premiership complacency about him. But I've come to my senses. Darcy went off the ground into the rooms, not just off the ground and into the hands of the trainers, into the rooms 12 times in 2021.
12 times.
He came back on 11 times, but I'm not sure I want to be watching Freo games to see him go off into the rooms.
You don't want the stress.
No, that's exactly it. No stress. I know that you're thinking of starting him, aren't you, Digger?
Oh, look, one day yes, one day no. This has been one of those, talk about a 50-50 decision. You know, we talk about like your Miller Steels, for example. Darcy Gawn has been so tough. Look, all preseason I'd gone with Darcy until, you know, it gets to a point where you ask yourself almost, well, how much is enough? You know, how many preseason niggles has he had just this year? It's like even watching the game, you know, he cannons in, you know, with Lob, you know, they collide and I'm thinking it's over. And at that point, I just thought, no, Gawn, you're coming into my side. And then at the end of the game or a day later, I looked at his SuperCoach score compared to actually what I thought he'd done during the game. And I was expecting, you know, a 50 score to be next to his name. But, you know, with a 90 plus, I thought, well,
I'll help clarify this.
What's going to happen, you know?
They were down by 2, 6 minutes to go, check side. Darcy kicked a check side goal, which inflated that score so much. He did not deserve 95 at all.
So, and that's interesting you say that because looking at what he did and for his score, I just thought, how on earth did it happen? If he's fit, it's going to be 195 because he can go 2 gears more than what he did on the weekend. And it really scared me. It scared me into selecting him again and fading Gawn again. I was a little bit scared by that potential ceiling, I suppose. But that's the question. What do you weigh up? Potential ceiling with injury risk. Where do you go? And are you a safer type of a player? Or do you want to go balls out and just say, well, you don't, not really balls out because I know he's a pretty popular pick in some circles, but that's what scared me off. But
what you're saying there is you're under the assumption that Gawn doesn't have a ceiling.
Well, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's true.
He has a ceiling. Yes, he's 75, 25, 70, 30. Let's say conservative 70-30 ruck percentage. Now, teams are out here saying that, I'm going to pick Rowe Marshall because he's going to get forward DPP. Well, if you're so worried about picking Gawn because of that 70-30 mix, he's just as likely to get forward DPP, which could be like the savior of everything here.
True.
I like the Gawn pick because of the number of avenues he has to score. He has the intercept marking. He has the goal kicking. He has a very high contested nature of his game and the hitouts to advantage to an elite midfield, which all are covered by Darcy. So it comes down to then, are you willing to, you get an extra 13K, so it's not a big difference. But it's about, do you value the ceiling that highly that you feel comfortable enough taking that injury risk?
Great point.
Where do you feel with that?
Well, this is a feeling I'm still weighing up, and this is why it's such a tough decision. But look, at the moment, I've got, and I look at this as more of a combo from the current side. I've currently got Lloyd Darcy, but I could have Gawn Crisp, just like you've gone here.
Yeah.
So that's the decision that I constantly weigh up. You know, some days I feel a little bit better about the Seagull, others I don't. So that's the decision for me. That's really the decision for me. Do I go with someone like Lloyd, who's had that history, I suppose, of uber elite scoring for a defender, or do you go with someone like a Jap Crisp, who probably this year I've got them pegged, and you're mentioning about them being similar players, or not similar players in the role necessarily, but similar, for averages, for predicted averages. That's another thing I'll look at, is durability. He can score well back in the midfield. Oh, decisions. It's like toss a coin type stuff for me at the moment. The reason why it's hard for me to let go of Lloyd is because he's been there from the start of the team picker. I just select him from the start, and I think just the look of the side. I don't know if it happens to you, but when you take a player out, your team just looks different all of a sudden. I'm used to having him there. Like, where has he gone? It's like I've painted the walls a different color or something without the seagull there. But again, in my first team picker, I think I selected Crisp as well. I selected both of them. So,
what if I told you this? Lloyd only went over 110 3 times last year. So he averaged 108, but he only went over 110 3 times. Now, these stats are not to sway one way or another, but it's just for consideration, because it's really important to keep in mind. So we're thinking that Lloyd's role, this is the confirmation or bias sort of thing coming into it. Is Lloyd's role getting better because Dawson's gone? Or is Lloyd's role getting worse because Campbell and Blakey have arrived, sort of thing?
Very true. Well, that's right. And these are all the questions that you need to ask yourself. And that's why it comes down to doing that pre-season research, how important this is. I know a lot of the people at the start of the year selected Lloyd with a big factor being the fact that Dawson was gone. But I think if you look at, when Dawson moved on to a wing, he wasn't necessarily affecting Lloyd as much as what lots of people just assumed, because he was playing that, defensive role, halfback role earlier on the season.
Kicking here and there was like given to Lloyd.
Possibly, yeah.
Not much.
Yeah, so I like your reasoning. I like your reasoning behind that. So, well, if you're looking at the combo, you're obviously more confident with your Crisp Gawn combo rather than the Seagull Darcy combo. Yep.
I think it'll be important for your team, because you'll probably think a lot more about what you'll need. You might not need a defensive mid in your midfield bench if you're going Lloyd instead of Crisp, sort of. So there's a lot of downstream effects of all these choices which are made.
There is, isn't there? There sure is. There sure is. Even a Dacos Crisp, that you'll open up that link, for example. But, mate, great discussion about those two. I'll tell you what, you give me lots to think about here.
You put the lock on Grundy yet?
This man, he's probably the only player, one of the only players that hasn't moved, apart from a Took and the McRae types and Dunkley. Yeah. But tell us about Grundy. Look, I think that most of the teams that I've looked at anyway have Grundy. Why is he in your side, and why is he a lock for you?
He shredded 8 kilos, I think. If I got the number right, he shredded a number of kilos.
Wow.
So he's back to his 2019 weight, so pre-hub weight. He said he struggled with the hubs. He's a sharp Australian boy.
Yeah.
So he's not accustomed to having to do a lot of, as with all players, they're not accustomed to having to live in a localized place like this, away from family, especially, which I think is a big problem, which was a big issue for the interstate players, from, like, if you're a Brisbane player and you were from Victoria, sort of thing, having to stay away from family for an extended period of time.
It's tough. I'm a family man. Tough. You're a family man. We're both family men.
It is very difficult. I think he's back. He's back. He looked hungry. You were saying that you were surprised by Darcy scoring 95. I watched the GWS Collingwood game. He's turned out a 115 or 120. I didn't even think he played that well. And
if that's going in third gear.
But he didn't have any of those fluky goals, or there was no clutch time, so there's no adjustment made for those key points, like the Darcy goal would have been weighted. There's none of that for Grundy. So that means that he had a good game. Even if the eye test didn't suggest he had a great game, he still had a good game, which is completely enough to lock him in.
Love it, mate.
He's a great VCC option. I think they play on Friday. No, I'm not sure when they play, but
I'm not too sure either.
He's a good option to use as your captain or your vice captain any given week. So they're my rucks. I got Hugh Dixon, I'm at R3. If Dixon's named, he's going to stay at R3. One thing which I do want to try and do is, it's not possible for round 1, but the link between Hugh Dixon and Jack Hayes, I think. Yeah,
Jack Hayes. Yep.
Yeah, is going to come in very handy because I'm going to try and utilize that swing with looping. So I'm going to try to loop either Baldwin or Nick Martin, who I think both of them might be in line for round 1 debuts.
Okay.
Or Cherry, with that Jack Hayes, Hugh Dixon link if Dixon doesn't get up. So this is another contingency that's in place, is that Dixon ends up being the loop because they're forward ruck link and I play a starting D7.
Okay.
Or D8, sorry. Yeah. So there's a bit of a contingency there in place to allow that loop, because as you can see in this team, F6 is probably the spot which I'm least confident with because Heath Chapman's a D5. This could very easily become a Sin and a McGovern, or O'Driscoll on the field McGovern, or something along those lines, which is the thinking there behind the Hugh Dixon pick over someone else like I think it's his name, from the other West Coast ruckman, the 123k one.
Oh, the Starny. Starnica? I wouldn't have a clue, mate.
This man.
Yeah, pronounce that for now.
So yeah, that's it. The forwards. This forward line the top 3 haven't changed at all. I haven't had any dreams of Heaney. No, I dream of Heaney.
No, I dream of Heaney.
You have? You've had a dream of Heaney?
Oh, mate, it's a nightmare now. Believe me, it's a nightmare now. After Papley went down and I saw what I saw during the Amy game, it's turned into an absolute nightmare. I was so confident on it. I was a believer. I was a big believer in what was going to happen with Isaac Heaney. But
did it not help you out, though, the Amy Community Series, in going either way or another? It personally helped me from saying whether or not I want to go Heaney. What about you?
Yeah, it helped me to not want to go with him. Yeah. It helped me to not want to go with him. Look, you look really good up forward, and people's argument is that you can probably maybe average 90 as a forward. Yeah, maybe. But I wanted to pay for him at that price for basically a full-time midfield role, having a bit of a rest in the forward line. And I simply didn't see that. You know, we know what the durability of Sydney's forward line is like. You know, on any given week, there's an important player that's probably missing for them. History just suggests that with the side. So I really want to get out of the pick.
He's too good of a forward not to be played forward. But the other thing here is that a lot of people are comparing him to Petraka. How Petraka was a trap for a couple of years. But in 2020, Petraka played exclusively as a mid in the preseason. Everyone was saying he was playing as a mid, and we got to see that. He scored a 170 in their preseason game, and then he backed it up. We haven't seen that from Heaney. We haven't actually seen him play exclusive as a mid in any of their intra-club games, in any of the preseason games, which just doesn't fill you with confidence as to him being startable. And then you have the injury risk. Just the big elephant in the room is, when is he going to get injured? What is he going to get injured with?
It's not if, it's when, isn't it? Someone like Heaney. Yeah. So a few red flags there, as you mentioned, with the Heaney pick. And I think the main one for me that you mentioned was that we didn't see it. We simply didn't see it. And I needed to see it. So at the moment, I've got to get him out. I've got him in at the moment with my team structure, but and this is why I haven't actually put my team reveal out yet, because I need to work out what I'm going to do with this Heaney money. You know, I've thought of lots of things, mate. I'll go on for too long, but yeah, you're off the Heaney pick. I'm getting off the Heaney pick, hopefully, as well. But I like the top 3 that you've got there. I think they're absolute locks. I don't think that you can afford not to start with at least your top 3 there.
Would you consider Heaney down to a rookie, that money spent up from a Berry to a Primo?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. That's in consideration. That's in consideration.
Because that would free up 350k-ish, 350k, and then the Berry money, that's about a 630. You can
the main issue there for me is that it's not quite enough for me to get up to a steal. That's my major issue. That would be the most logical thing that I'd do. The issue for me then is that I start picking around other areas of the side, and I'm like, I'm taking this away, I'm taking that away to get up there. And then it's that assessment of, you know, if I'm taking this away, is that going to be an advantage to me, or am I just stuffing around too much now, trying to be too skimpy with particular things? So that's the big issue for me at the moment. I'd even contemplated doing that, and I can easily fit in someone like a Paddy Cripps after that. But I had a good think about it, and I thought,
this is
going
to be the big call of 2022.
I can't. Well, you're a look. I know
I'm a Carlton fan, but I have no idea. He got engaged last week. Kudos to him, which shows that he is absolutely flying at the moment.
Flying, yeah, on and off the field.
He still has the shoulder tape, which was something I was looking for, but I don't think that it's an issue because it's not. He says that he had a great preseason. He just looks back. You would remember very well the 2019 Eddie had the Marvel game.
Oh,
the one that he kicked 4 goals in, and absolutely terrorized you guys.
I'll tell you why I remember that game, mate, because we had a Hall of Fame function on the same night. Yeah. So all the Brisbane supporters, and at the start we were looking really, really good. At the start, I was saying to my brother,
6 goals.
At
halftime.
I called it to him. I said to my brother, mate, this is going to be the best night ever. We're going to smash them. We're going to get the drinks out. We're going to have a ripper night. And we got to the Hall of Fame function, and the atmosphere was dull. The atmosphere was dull, mate. It was terrible. And I remember at that point in time saying that was probably the best individual performance that I could remember actually seeing in person at the game. And I was obviously really disappointed being a Brisbane supporter, but at the same time, it was almost like I was thankful for witnessing someone actually do that.
It was an incredible form.
You just
That's what it reminded me of. That Melbourne game reminded me of that, because he's not only was he able to get the contest possession, the clearances, but his much maligned goal kicking. He looked like he had a good form. You remember the last couple of years being stuttering towards goal. He's trying to be Josh Kennedy out here.
Yeah.
But he was straight at the target. He's in for a big year. A 454K. That is just so awkward. I don't know. Because you're going to sacrifice somewhere to go down and then up to a Cripps. So you're going to sacrifice one of your mid-prices like Rowell or Berry, and you're going to sacrifice a top liner to get down to Cripps.
Yeah. That's the tough thing, isn't it? And I think most people at the moment, as you mentioned, from in midfield, have horne-francis, Dacos, Ward, and Stevens, with probably 3 of those guys on field. It gets to a point where you lock in your top 3, probably like you've done here. I think locking Neil is an absolute no-brainer. You've just got to have him in the mix as well. And then a Matthew Rowell, I actually view as a must-have. So it gets to a point where you go, where do you fit Cripps in? Do you take a horne-francis out, upgrade to a Cripps there, and take him out? I'm probably not willing to do that. If maybe we didn't have a Rowell available for us, then Cripps may be in my side actually. But it's a scary one. It feels like if I get Cripps, knowing my luck, if I select him, he's going to fail. And if I don't select him, he's just going to be the most obvious selection that I missed in a long time, because we've seen premium numbers from him before. We know what this bloke's capable of. Last year, playing with a broken back, apparently at times, for example, whatever he was dealing with. That's a major issue. I've mentioned playing one of the most brutal sports in the world. It's
not starting him is easy as a Blues fan, because if he plays well, we win. If he doesn't play so well, at least the SuperCoach team wins. For the 31% of coaches out there that have Cripps, what would you want as an average? Because he's at the price where you're not looking for 150K rise, because if he goes up 150K, you're keeping him.
Yeah, exactly right.
So you're looking him as a keeper. What are we looking for?
I suppose I'd be happy at that price for a 110 average.
Yeah, I'm going to say the exact same thing. 110, which is probably low end primo. You'd say like an M12. Yeah. M12 to 15 range, which is, you can't have them all, which is at the end of the day, if you believe that Cripps is going to be near, at or about that top 8 and will give you value week in, week out, you got to go for it. But he's a keeper.
Yeah, for 454, getting him, you're basically getting your M8 for 454K at the start of the year.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
And it's tough, isn't it? I think it's tough to run both Rowell and Cripps. As I mentioned before, if Rowell maybe wasn't available, then I think Cripps, his stocks rise a little bit for me. but you've got to take into account who the other options that we've got here are, I think. So, yeah, it's a really tough call. I'd love to, but I just can't. But it slightly worries me not doing it.
Yeah. I think as I was saying, Blues fan, I'm okay with not starting him. I hope that he proves me wrong.
That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me, Janice.
I do. Before we get to the forward line a bit more, I just wanted to raise one thing. Braden Pruce is an R3. Thoughts?
I had him in my last team reveal. I think he was my R3.
Yes.
Because, but remember at this stage, there wasn't Hayes or Dixon. The other Hayes from Port wasn't looking too great. Comben doesn't look like he's going to get up for a game. So I was a little bit worried because at this stage as well, I was running Darcy. And we know what Darcy's durability is like. So a big concern for me was, look, the fact that Darcy will most likely miss a game or two. I don't want to have necessarily someone like a Dixon with lower scoring potential to cover. I'd like someone like a Braden Pruce who does have that higher scoring potential. And as well as that, I think that he can make an easy 150K. So he was sort of like having a good cash cow to make that 150K at least, and also being a good option to also cover in case someone misses a game.
That's a really good point. So what you're saying is have Pruce as, if you're starting Darcy, spend up that extra 100K to a Pruce, get a Pruce in so that you're not going to be worried about what's going to happen next week if he gets injured.
That's right, and I know it's a high price, but what you're also getting with that, I think, is that 150K minimum price rise if he's the R1. So it was sort of getting sort of the best of both worlds in one way. I wouldn't be a fan of just sticking a 200K player there that you think's just a really average type, won't really do much at all. But with Pruce, if he's the R1, I just think that his cash gen is also something I really wanted. And I knew that lots of people were going him as an R2. And I thought, well, they could get a fair bit of cash gen there if that works. I still want that cash gen. I don't want to start him on field, though. So that's why I had him as the R3.
It's a big if. Like, if horne-francis was 100% midfield, he'd be the M1. I think that's the thing. We've got to take the emotion out of all of these decisions and just think realistically. Pruce isn't the Giants' number one ruckman. He split in time with Flynn. So it's not guaranteed that he's going to play in the ruck. It's not guaranteed he's going to take contested marks down the line like he did against Collingwood. Oh,
very true.
Was it Collingwood? I think it was Collingwood. Yeah, against Collingwood.
Yeah.
Just got to be really careful. And just got to think pragmatically through all of this. He's a great R3 option, I think, if you are a Darcy owner. Not so much a Gawn owner. I feel like you have to trust Gawn and Grundy to stay healthy.
Yes,
that's why you're picking them.
I agree. Yep.
Picking them. But yes, Pruce is definitely a viable R3 option if you are a Darcy owner.
And a lot of it also depends on, just say you've got Dixon there, for example. If you do run with a Pruce, what can you do with that extra 100K that you could save going down to even like a Hayes or a Dixon? That should play a big part in your decision as well. What can you actually do whenever you do a downgrade from a rookie to anything, a premium to a lower premium? Always got to ask yourself that question. Well, how is this money going to come in handy? Is it worth doing what I'm willing to do? So, yeah,
probably
totally agree with your thoughts.
You're going to have to downgrade somewhere in the midfield, you'd think. So, Rail down to a Berry, or one of the big three down to a... I don't know. There's no one in that really 630 to 550 range apart from Neil that you would start above any of these big guys.
That's right. Yeah, like, and that's Brayshaw what makes it.
One I was like, Brayshaw and Parrish were the two I was sort of like, okay, I can do Miller and Neil or Brayshaw and Parrish. At one stage, I was at that stage, but it was like, let's just go with the big guns.
Yeah,
trust the big guns. Yeah. We can, because you don't want to have too many breakout players. Because if you have too many breakout players and none of them break out, that's your season.
That's right, isn't it? That's right. You got to really, it's about that balance, isn't it? It's really about that balance and your confidence in particular players as well.
Because we're confident George Hewitt's a breakout, but you don't want to be confident Hewitt, Brayshaw, Parrish, Rao.
That's the probability. The probability just decreases, by every pick, doesn't it?
There we go. With the forwards, though, as we mentioned, Dunkley and Butters, I think they're they look good for F1 and F2.
Yep. Agreed.
Cogs could potentially even push into the F3. If he has the role and he has the hunger, he could be. If you had to pick another 450k, 450, 440k forward, who would you go, Dia?
I would always normally say Heaney. Look, Zach Bailey.
We'll even cut it into 400 because I know there's a certain player that I had in my team for a while.
Well, so you're Taron Thomas. I'm not huge on Taron Thomas. Really, really talented type kid. Probably want to see it for another year off him. Bailey, I mentioned before, I just don't know what his forward mid-split's going to be. I think he could be a potential breakout option. You look at...
Throw one out there for you? Lockie Weller?
Lockie Weller. Well, I've actually got him in my draft team. I did a YouTuber's draft with George and the boys, and I ended up getting Lockie Weller. That first practice match in particular, seeing those kick-ins, he's obviously, when we say an early pick, well, they paid pick 2 for him. He's a talented type player. Probably haven't seen that consistency from him, but I certainly think he's got the capabilities to be able to do something special this year. So I actually like the Welly. Geez, I'm butchering that, didn't I? The Lockie Weller. Maybe Lally can be a new nickname for him.
But, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, what do you like about him, mate? Was it that role that you really liked, particularly during that first match?
I had him in my team for a long time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, had him in my team for a long time. Well, he's clearly not anymore, but he plays off. So I know a lot of people get scared off by the Jack Bowes comparison. So Bowes is a very he doesn't like a lot of contact. Even though he's a supposed midfielder, last year he just didn't go near contact. No contested possessions, took in the kick-ins, took down contested marks, liked to play a bit of kick-to-kick. Weller plays off the back of the stoppage. So he's a handball away. But it gets to a point where his ceiling is high, but his floor is also really low.
Yep.
Because of the issue that he relies on the kick-ins. Port Adelaide kicked 20, some crazy amount of points. He had 12 kick-ins that game, Weller, and he got to 100. So if he needs 12 kick-ins to get to 100, when I was watching the Geelong game, he didn't have much contested possession. No contested possessions, which is the issue because you don't want to, unless you're going to have 35 posies a game, like a Lloyd, you need a contested nature to your game to score well in SuperCoach.
Good point.
Similar with Shorty. Shorty gets those. He racks it up, so he's going to get up there. He kicks along, so does Weller. There's a lot of comparisons there. It's just that contested nature was lacking with Weller, which is why if I had to get to Took, I needed to get rid of Weller.
And he was a man, yep. Well, money well spent, mate, getting Took into the side, I think.
But also, I think that Cherry gets close to Weller if he plays Ruck 1, which is my F4 at the moment.
Nice, yep.
So in their practice intra-club match, Cherry started for the blue team, Goldie started for the white team. Against, Sydney, Cherry was R1, Goldie was second ruckman, Reston ruckman. A lot of signs are pointing towards Cherry being that ruck 1. At 208k, I rated more than the Brodies, the Ralph Smith, those types. What do you reckon, Ryan? Where are you thinking with that? You got
Locked into my side. Locked into my side. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that you said, basically. And give a shout out to Eno, because Eno was on this prick pretty early. He said, make sure you take a really good look at this bloke. And I really paid no attention to him. Look, I didn't know much about him and up until this last practice match, where I did a little bit more research, look at some of the numbers, tried to find every little piece of news that I could. But look, as the R1, and we look at their other options, the main risk for me is the fact that they've got your Comb and your CCJ, you've got your Goldie, so they've got a few big men that are actually on their list. But it seems like, from what I saw this man deliver, that he should be and deserves to be the R1. It was the contested marks. There was one stage where there was a loose ball get, and he just went head first into the contest and just crashed the pack. And I thought to myself, this this guy really wants it. This guy really wants it. He's got a bit of mongrel to him, which I really, really like. And I think that's important as an R1 to have that sort of mongrel to you as well. Goldie's obviously getting older. So I don't necessarily rate the competition that he's got. Coleman Jones, I know they brought across. I'm not a huge Coleman Jones fan. Yeah, again, probably more of a forward. Comben, I think he could be okay long term, but he's nowhere near a Cherry level, I don't think. And we know that, was it the Saints that wanted to snag him last year?
They balked at the price for future seconds. So North valued.
I thought they were crazy. North were crazy for asking that. I thought, hey, how can you ask it?
But that shows how much the team values, because a future second,
exactly.
And North, what is it? Would it be a St Kilda future second? That's a pretty good.
It's not a nothing pick, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a usable, viable pick.
Mid-20s pick for a ruckman that wasn't even considered. You've already brought in Coleman Jones. You have Goldie. You're not thinking, going to keep him like that.
And that was a big point as well. The fact that they had, got your Coleman Jones across, still weren't willing to get rid of him.
They weren't willing to get rid of Cherry.
Yeah, that's something. I was just waiting for North to budge, and you always start high.
Yeah.
All right, we'll
Last
take a third
deal.
or a fourth or whatever we do. But no, they didn't. They stuck to their guns, and I think the reason why is that in their view, he probably is. In my opinion, it is the future. So I'm totally with you. Cherry. I'm on the Cherry train. Absolutely on the Cherry train. And that's why, just metaphorically, having the berry and the cherry, it's a nice combination.
But your team name is going to be something along those lines?
You'd have to do something clever with that name, wouldn't you, mate? I think. But yeah, I think at the price we're paying as well, just over 200K, I really like that. So you've got Cherry, obviously, over Brody. I'd agree with that. Yeah, you are. It's not a lot of money that you're saving, but 20 odd K that can help you in other stages. So I'm all over the pick, to be quite honest, mate.
How about you help the viewers out here? Rank these players: McGovern, Cherry, Brody, Ralph Smith. Anyone else in this sort of this price range? I think they're the main.
Not really
the main
well.
Four.
Right off the bat.
Charlie Kerno.
Curnow.
Still have him.
I'd have Ralph Smith last.
Yeah.
Along with Curnow. I was on Curnow. I just thought, a bit of a no-brainer here. Star of the competition. Well, when we say star of the competition, I think a future star of the competition, and we have seen enough already to suggest that, that's reality if he stays fit and on the park. But as soon as, he went down during that breaking match, I just thought, no way, I can't do him.
So he wasn't injured, but he's too volatile. It's too volatile.
That's right. That's
220K, you don't want a volatile player.
No. And given the fact that we've got, and look, I may still be looking at him if there wasn't so many other options that we had available, maybe in another year. Yeah, I still would be. But given the fact we've got these other options, no. So those two are clearly down the bottom of my list. And then you get to Cherry, McGovern, and Brody. Now, it's really tough for me. I've actually got Brody third. That may be different to lots of people who may have him first on their list. But I think we talked about it before. I don't rate his job security. I think if you're paying this much for a player, you've got to be really certain on their job security. You have to be certain on their job security. You don't want to be paying 200 plus K for a player that you're not sure is going to be in their best side from week to week. That's a big difference between McGovern. I see McGovern playing every week in that role. I've seen enough in the preseason to suggest that. You might know more as a Blue supporter, mate, but personally, I'm not worried about him going out of the side at any stage unless he's injured.
Unless he gets injured,
Yep. Cherry, I see the same thing. In my opinion, as we've already just talked about, we talked about him a fair bit. I think that he's the number one ruck at North. I just think he's a lock to play from what I've seen him produce. And Brody, I just don't rate his job security as high. That's the issue for me. I don't think that he can score well if he doesn't play a midfield role. So I don't think resting forward he can score really well or anywhere else on the field. He needs to be at the coalface right in the contest. And with Fife coming back, I know some people mentioned that Mitch Croden spent a fair bit of time in the middle, had a lot of CBAs, which Fife may come in there. Yeah, I don't know. But it really comes down to probably job security where I'd have Brody. Now, the next one is really, really tough. Right, another quick break. I have the 5th number in the lead code. It is 5. So the 5th digit in the lead code you're looking for is the number 5. Stay tuned for the last one. It will be at some stage during the video. I'd probably have McGovern maybe slightly ahead, and I say maybe slightly ahead because he's going to play the same role for the whole match. You know, what's the ruck split going to be between Cherry and Goldstein? I don't really know what he's like as a forward option. Look, there is a chance maybe if he has a couple of down games that they give Coleman Jones a bit of a crack in there. I think that's a low possibility, but a possibility, which I don't think will happen. But oh, look, you're really splitting hairs, I think. Look, the other probably thing I should take into consideration here, I may even change this on the slide, mate. You're saving 60 odd K, aren't you? With him.
50 odd.
50 odd K.
Yeah, because McGovern's 256.
When you're talking about players from 200 to 250K range, if you've got a 50-50 split on maybe scoring potential, then maybe that's, well, not maybe, that is a big thing.
So what are you going to use that 50K on? That's the question you want to ask yourself.
Exactly right. We always get back to this question, don't we? What are you going to do with the money?
If it's going to bolster your bench, go for it. If it's going to take you from a let's say, a Sam DeConning to a Josh Sin for his round 1 debut, do it. I think that Cherry's a must-have, personally.
Yeah.
I don't think that McGovern is a must-have, but he's more of a must-have than Brody is. So your order, swapping around Cherry and McGovern. McGovern, I'm just worried that what happens if he doesn't intercept mark? What are his other scoring avenues? Because he doesn't take kick-ins, and if he has a low possession game, or he gets tagged, because we know, like, Will Hayward for Sydney is a notorious forward tagger.
Interesting.
So if he gets tagged out of the game, where is his points coming from?
That's a great point. You know what? And this is why it's been great having a chat with you, mate, because as we're chatting now, I'd probably have to, and so you need to say these things out loud to yourself sometimes, don't you? You know, your brain goes at a million miles an hour when you're looking at your app.
It's good sport. It's a good game for this purpose, because you don't want to. Confirmation bias is so big in this game, where you just see something that confirms what you want to believe, but not what is true.
It is so true what you say, mate. Because as you're saying that, you know, when I really look at things carefully, you look at the pros and the cons, put these two blokes beside each other. It's got to come back to that 50K. I think it's got to come back to that 50K. So on the fly, I reckon that I'm going to get my order up to scratch with yours, and I reckon we're probably, now that you've really made me think even more about it, I can agree that Cherry is probably that little bit ahead based on those couple of extra factors.
I did have to add one thing with Brody. So Brody came across from Gold Coast with a pick attached to him, which tells me that
salary dump.
It was a salary dump. Freo were taking him on as opposed to willfully bringing him in. He's a good player. I have him in my notes. I have him as a silent accumulator. It's almost like I didn't even see him, but he was just racking it up. He was racking it up. I think that he's a good pick. I'd go McGovern and Cherry before him, and Cherry's cheaper than both of them, which is perfect.
True.
He's also cheaper than Ralph Smith.
That's right. And even, you know, I don't know how their midfield's going to set up, but you've got, you know, even a Tucker type to come back into that midfield. Johnson, I don't know how long Johnson's out. Is that, do you know if that's long?
I think Johnson is long term. Erasmus, though, is primed for an early debut.
I had him pre-season ahead of Brody playing round 1 myself.
Erasmus,
this is. Erasmus. So I think that's going to be some big competition there with Erasmus, because I think they'll both play the same type of role. And what I'm worried about with Brody is just a couple of quiet weeks, them looking for other options, give someone else an opportunity, because there are blokes here that may deserve an opportunity or could also play that similar role. So that's probably why I'd have him third, as you did, behind the other two, mate.
Let's take it back though and think that if you do start McGovern and Cherry comes out of the blocks, you're able to go down to a Cherry.
True.
But that's
true.
that's just, these are all factors to keep in mind when you're picking your starting team. Where do you want to allocate that money, sort of thing? If you feel like, I feel confident enough that Cherry is going to score better than McGovern and Brody, so I'm happy with starting Cherry.
And he's cheaper.
If I wasn't so sure, he's cheaper. Yeah. But if I wasn't so sure, I'd probably start with McGovern, then Cherry, then Brody. As an order like that.
Yep. Rochelle, we've all got Rochelle, don't we, at this stage? Wasn't in my pre-season side. Well, no. I didn't think that the role would be good enough playing for Adelaide. But seeing this bloke actually play, wow.
He's a good player.
He's clean. He's damaging. He just looks like a player. And I know that George's, I think he said this slightly jokingly, but a bit of seriousness about it. He reckons he's their best player already. There at the Crows, Rochelle.
I mean,
he's just, he looks great. He just looks great. You know, he tackles well. Look, he won't get 3 goals every week. I understand this, but
you don't need him to, though.
For me, his job security is absolutely rock solid. Rock solid. They'd be mad not to play this bloke, even if he has a bit of a down run. All rookies do. Keep the faith with him. Look, we're paying 180K. That's because I think he's such a talented player, and I think that people often balk at paying a price like that when it's not a midfielder, given the fact he's a forward. But if we look at the talent, scoring potential, I think is good. I think he'll still give us, maybe a 40 every now and then. These things happen.
It doesn't matter.
Select a forward rookie,
you don't have any other options.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Tell us why he's in your side, mate.
I think that when I was watching this game, he's not a small forward. He's not a key forward. He's the perfect type, like your Heenies, your Dusties, your DeGoey's. He's got that material. He's got the X factor. So if they need a spurt through the middle, he can get into the middle. Which he's going to be a midfielder. I have a sense that if Adelaide drafts well, that they can get him in to the midfield progressively over his career. He's going to be a gun. He's fun to watch, which is one thing that I think for SuperCoach players out there, pick the players you want to watch.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because you don't want to be supporting a person or player that you just can't watch, like, sort of thing. Which is why, again, I'm not going with Sean Darcy, because I just can't watch a Freo game and just be painfully and agonisingly watching him if he's on the ground or not.
Oh, that's you do go in every game worried, don't you? Yeah, you do go in every game worried. Yeah. But
like a player like Rochelle, you just want to watch those types. They make you turn on Adelaide, which isn't something that I've done it for research purposes and to watch like Rory Laird and players, which don't willfully turn on and watch an Adelaide game.
You've done it for education, not entertainment.
But Rochelle does that. He brings that entertainment value.
Yeah, very true.
He's a very good. Looking forward to watching him play. He's a gun. He's going to be a great player.
He's got a bit of swagger about him, the haircut and stuff. He looks like a pretty cool dude, doesn't he?
He looks like a cool dude. And he's already the best forward.
He looks it, doesn't he? You're right. Yeah.
Not sure he's their best player. That might be a bit of a stretch.
That's a big call.
He's probably up there. All we know. I know that we're both not Adelaide fans. George is, so he could be on something. We'll see that. And then the rookies. So Rochelle is the main rookie. These other 3 here. So Hayes, I'm really confident in Hayes. I watched him closely against Essendon. He leads up the ground a lot. So he tries to get forward. So he's playing that Marshall role that Marshall would be playing if Ryder was the ruckman.
Okay.
Which is a very SuperCoach friendly role, so long as he's got good hands, and he does. Now, unfortunately, Hayes couldn't kick the side of a barn in front of goal on Saturday night, but he got the opportunities to, and he'll come. He's going to kick a couple. He gets around the ground well. He covers it well. He was a SANFL project, I think. He was a South Australian Football League project, and he was a really good project. From memory, he scored really well in the SANFL, and he's got a pedigree there. He's got a big body. He's a good F6 option, I think. That's why I've got him there. All depends on the defensive rookies, as mentioned, who comes up as to whether he's actually going to be there, but he's definitely going to be on the bench. Now, Baldwin, So Harry Jones is out. Baldwin all but set to debut. I think he would have debuted even with Jones. I'm
Oh,
not
interesting.
sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
I think that perhaps that it could actually be detrimental to Baldwin that Jones is injured to a degree.
Okay, let's talk about. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that because I think lots of people would assume the absolute opposite.
So, if we think about it in SuperCoach terms, the key forwards just don't score overly well. Baldwin did a lot of moving up the ground because he's the third tall. He doesn't need he's not a stay-home forward. What I wrote in my notes is a Jake Waterman type. He's a Jake Waterman from West Coast who was playing the third tall behind Darling, sometimes Allen, sometimes Kenny. It's a bit weird how the West Coast forward line works, but similar concept there. The third tall moves up the ground whilst the other two stay at home and act as like markers.
Yeah.
So you got the guy that's going up. You want the guy that's going up the ground because they have more opportunities for possessions. So Baldwin was that type on the weekend. I'm just worried that with no Harry Jones, does that mean he becomes the second tall forward?
No, not really. Geez, I love that thought, mate, because what you say is true. You probably don't want him as that real key, do you? You probably want him being able to come up the ground and to be able to lead up. So that's a really, really good point you make. And also part of the point as to why you predict that he may have even debuted with Jones in the side as well, because they play a slightly different role. And given the fact that maybe he's now forced to play more of that key role.
Peter Wright. So it's Peter Wright. He's locked in. And then there's no one. If you have a look at, I'm not sure if they have a supplemental pick, but there's no more key forwards on this list, is there? Like
no one's standing out.
Cian McBride. I never heard of him.
Ruck forward. I know nothing about him.
Alec Waterman played that third tall, I guess, last year. But would you have Waterman and Baldwin in the same side? I really like Baldwin. Love this game.
Agreed.
If he gets that if they name another key forward, he's a lock. He could be the F6.
Interesting.
Great F6. Yeah.
If they don't name another key forward, you're still selecting him. Probably
starting
Hayes over
unless
him.
Unless there's a better rookie, I might start a McKenty.
Okay.
For Port. Because he looked really good as well. I saw this one play where he absolutely just dove past two Crows players and just absolutely got the ball, got a free kick in the process. Ken loves those sort of things.
I had that in my notes as well.
You had that? Yeah.
Had that.
He just came from nowhere on that session.
Yeah, he just seemed desperate.
He wanted it. He's like, I want a round one debut.
He did. He really
Actually, no, it's not a debut. It's second game because he subbed once last year.
I didn't realise that. There you go. I didn't realise it. So obviously didn't come onto the field or.
Let's have a look. He might have.
I didn't realise that.
He's at an elevated price.
Very interesting. I suppose he's got that DPP status, which I like as well.
Yeah, he scored 3 points.
Would you have him 3 points? So okay. Well, there you go.
Because he was a mid-season pick. That's why.
If you had the money, which I'm not sure you do, would you go on McKenty in your midfield? Assuming they're both named, or Saligo? Who would you go?
I'd go for DPP. I'd go McKenty.
Okay.
As in, if there's not another DPP that's named, probably go McKenty.
Okay.
But if Baldwin is named as the second tall, I'm going McKenty up forward instead of Baldwin.
Interesting. So it's not only if he plays round one, it's who else is selected round one.
Well, there's other options there. If McKenty is named. And I know that he has good job security because Ken doesn't just give them an opportunity to drop them straight away.
Yep.
I'll start McKenty as F7. If Baldwin is named and he's the third tall, not the second tall, then we'll probably go with Baldwin up forward, McKenty into the midfield. The problem is, there's the thing with SuperCoach is with the prices. I have 6.3K, which means I can take a 117 player it takes it to 123.7.
Oh no!
Or 6,
how often does that seem to happen?
Off.
10 mil,
which is okay.
10 mil salary cap, 10 mil we've got here, and it can come down to a couple of $100. Unbelievable!
I'd probably just take down like a McDonald to someone or O'Driscoll to someone, and I'd fund that pretty. It wouldn't be the end of the world. It wouldn't mean like moving Took to like a Crips, and then it's not like a wholesale changes or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the reason there. And Nick Martin, I've gotten good intel from a couple of my Essendon mates that he's prime for a round one debut.
Really? Yeah, because
Yes.
the only thing I wasn't sure about is the fact that he started in the second half. And mind you, when he came on the second half,
so good.
Wow, how was it?
Incredible.
But yeah, tell us what you know about him, mate, or what you've heard about him. Really interested to hear.
He, I think, was also, I think him and Nazai Wanganeen, the Tex Wanganeen, they were both supplemental pickups.
Yep.
Nick Martin he's got a good body type. He looks like a midfielder. He plays like a midfielder. He loves a contested possession. Let me just have a look at what I've got down in my notes here for him. So I've said that he looks around one lock. He's got a good judgment for the fall of the ball. So
okay.
So which means that in a contested sort of stoppage setup, he knows where the ball will fall. And also that he looks like a contested pig. Reminded me a bit of Tom Rockcliffe.
The old Rocky.
Stud,
yeah, Rocky. Yeah.
who's now a SuperCoach analyst now.
He is too, isn't he? Old Rocky.
So
yeah.
I think that Nick Martin is a very, very decent selection. If he gets a round one debut, he could potentially be that F6, which is why I'm happy with having this setup here, because you don't want just rookies just rotting away on the bench who are good scoring.
Yep.
And 102.4k, no risk attached, basically, to it. I did want to mention one other rookie that I forgot to mention before in the mids, Brady Hoff.
Oh, yeah, from West Coast. Yep.
He looks also likely for a round one debut, although at the end of the game, they were in the contest. I'm not sure if you saw it, but it was 2 minutes to go. They were down 2 goals, and he kicked it straight to a Freo player, which may not be a good sign, because I'm not sure Adam Simpson is openly advocating turning the ball over in a crime situation. But he's playing off halfback, which is a SuperCoach friendly role, and his teammates are looking for him as well, I guess, to a degree, which is something that we've already raised.
Good sign.
For a rookie, especially. I wish Nate played a full game. That's one thing which I was.
Yeah, because he's just been signed on as well, hasn't he?
He had it. Yeah.
I suppose there's two ways of looking at that last stat there when he turned the ball over. Obviously, there's SuperCoach points lost. So do you say to yourself, well, with that last game, there was probably a little bit more meat on the bone with his score. If that kick doesn't get turned over, I was at a 10-point turnaround, 5 down, you gained 5. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Or else is it a sign that, or maybe he's not composed enough at the level yet, and we maybe tend to select someone else. But look, if it's a friendly role, and as you mentioned, they're looking to get the ball in his hands. There's no Chesser, obviously. They're just decimated at the moment, aren't they? They are absolutely decimated. So it is an interesting selection. You've obviously gone Saligo.
I have. It's easy to think that Saligo, because of the role, the mids role, but I'm going to toss it up between Hoff and Saligo. I think that Hoff has better role.
Okay.
Worse job security, because West Coast rookies. Do you remember last year? They debuted about 4 people in the span of 2 weeks, but they all got dropped like straight away. They
did.
Which is an issue with Adam Simpson's rookies, because they don't get a good run at it. As soon as their players get healthy, one comes in, one goes out, sort of thing.
He hasn't got that Kenny Hinkley type attitude, does he, mate, that we want to see?
He doesn't. He doesn't have that South Australian attitude. Matthew Nicks has that same attitude. It's just, if you give the rookies a chance, they get a prolonged run. James Rowe had a couple of stinkers last year.
True.
But he didn't get dropped. He just plays them out. So Brady Hoff is a good call. Good role. I've said here that he played the same role that Heath Chapman played last year, because Chapman's not playing the same role that he played last year. Chapman played a rebounding halfback, not so much intercepting role.
Okay.
That's the role that Hoff is playing. So if you want to think about it, it's a bit like is probably similar to what Hugo Ralph Smith is going to be doing this year.
Interesting.
Different teams, different philosophies, of course. West Coast is also known to move the ball very slowly, which could play into the hands of Hoff, and he could be a DPP by round 6. All
good point.
Valuable points to bring up in regards to Hoff as opposed to a Saligo or a McEntee sort of thing.
That DPP's got me interested because I don't think there's going to be a heap of people that will select a defensive mid DPP in their midfield.
The mids, yep.
So if a Hoff could do that, if you just look at your team here, for example, all of a sudden you open up links with Crisp, with your Whitfield, with your O'Driscoll, that opens up some potential links there. I know that probably you've got Dacos, and most of us will have Dacos, but really interesting.
And just on video, I've just made the change. He's just
there. We go.
Convinced myself. Saligo
we got Hoffy in.
He's in. You've got to take a risk sometimes with a high ceiling, semi-high. I'm not going to say high ceiling. He's not a high ceiling, but a semi-high ceiling rookie compared to job security. Potentially, that could be your next loop.
Well, you've got McDonald and Stevens there, who you'd think would have, fairly good job security. West Coast, I think, often have a few Sunday games as well.
Do they?
Yeah. I think both the West Coast guys do.
First week is Sunday.
Oh, there you go.
That's an issue because you don't know if he's going to get named until Saturday night. But
another layer of complexity. Where's Adelaide?
I guess yes.
So
the game before that, so it's okay.
You're banking on one of the two. So would you be pretty confident at this stage?
Well, even this,
at least one of the two.
Sunday, you got Hawks, Crows, Eagles. So you've got all your rookies. You'll have your McDonald's, your Longs, your Sarong, Jai Sarong, your Hoff, your where's McEntee? McEntee's on a Saturday night.
Wow, okay. That makes things interesting. Look at all the rookies. Hawthorn North, geez.
I think Gota is also a potential chance for North Melbourne.
Yeah.
Freo rookies, your O'Driscoll. They're holding them back here.
I'll tell you what.
Essendon has played Saturday afternoon, so we'll know Friday night.
Okay, well that's handy. So you should have a pretty good idea on the two boys you're currently running with up forward there. And so maybe the plan for you is with the Hoff and Saligo is just to hope that at least one of them will play, and whoever plays you chuck in. And if they're both named, then you back your gut on which one to select.
Who are you starting in forward? F6, F7, and F8?
Well, mine's pretty crazy at the moment. Mine's got a fair bit of mid-price madness to it. So I've gone with your first two there, obviously Dunkley and Butters. But I've tried to fit all of Cherry, McGovern, and Rochelle in, and I've had a different is it 2 or 3 with Heaney in there a lot of the time as well.
Cogs.
So, and Cogs, of course, and Cogs. So basically what happens with mine a lot of the time is that Rochelle gets pushed out to an F7. I've gone that deep. It's too deep to have that much money on your bench, though. I think what's helped me with having this chat is that I had nowhere near as much confidence on some of the blokes that I see in your side. So with Baldwin and Martin, for example, I just wasn't really sure about them. So I thought to myself, look, I probably need to get an extra one of these 200k blokes in. Another bloke I thought about was Durden from Carlton as well at about 140k, but I've been a little bit off on there.
Or role.
Yeah,
he's a small forward.
That's what puts you off, isn't it? That's what puts you off.
And
you could easily see a 30,
possibly
40.
Injured.
And that's right. Had obviously that injury. I don't think nothing too serious. I think he should be right for round 1, but not ideal preparation, is it, at the end of the day? But it's funny, the team that I'm not currently rolling with, that's my, I suppose, second team, is pretty much the same as this, but instead of your Baldwin there, for example, I have McGovern, and I don't have Heath Chapman, and I've got a Gibcus. So that's basically the major changes. And I think the other change that I've had, because I've been so set on Berry, and this is something that I don't like, is that I did drop Lloyd for Sicily and then upgraded to Berry in the midfield as well. So that's the other consideration I've got as well. But yeah, the second side, it looks like I'm leaning more towards that after the chat that we've had, I think.
If you're looking for another defender around, two defenders around that Sicily range, Liam Baker from Richmond.
He's an interesting one, isn't he?
He's an interesting
Massive
one. I think
pod.
he's a draft proposition, but if you have the balls to go him in classic,
isn't that the ultimate risk reward selection? You start someone like a Baker and he goes off. You are an absolute bloody genius, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's a feather in your cap.
That's crazy. And the other one is Will Powell from Gold Coast.
Got him in my last keeper draft, actually, mate. He was a really sneaky selection as well.
He is a very good pick.
He was on the board late. I suppose the only issue I've got is that my lack of confidence starts to go down a little bit, and it's...
Yes. Personally, I wouldn't start either of those two over Sicily, but I wouldn't start Sicily anyway. So that says...
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, that says a fair bit there, I think, doesn't it, mate? Yeah, I'm not a fan of Sicily. Look, probably the toughest decision for me is going to come down to whether or not I select Jared Berry. I think that's a real tough one. If he was available as a forward, if he had mid forward, and I thought there might be a slight chance because he played a few forward minutes last year, then yeah, he'd be locked away. But that's going to be a big decision for me, mate, because he's my favourite player in the comp. I love Jared Berry. He's my number one man.
You said that about Touk as well.
His favourite non-Lions playing player. So he's
you're okay.
Yeah, I've got to distinguish that. Yeah, but yeah, that's going to be a big decision for me, mate. But I'll tell you what. Not only did I love you actually sharing your side, what have we gone for? I think we've gone for over 2 hours here, mate. At the start, I was thinking, maybe half an hour, we'll do a bit of a longer one. This chat has turned into more than a team reveal, I think. It's turned into really a mini podcast without any agenda, in a way, hasn't it? There's just been discussions that have come naturally, sort of on the fly.
Hopefully your viewers able to take it in, because I'm not sure how your retention is, but like if they listen into all of it, they're going to get some very, very important, valuable tips. Definitely,
mate. Definitely. I'll tell you what, it's maybe even do a part 1 to part 2, but I'll tell you what, if you've got over 2 hours, if you're just in the car, hook up the Android system or whatever, get this blaring on the radio, because there are some absolute pieces of gold here. And look, I respect a lot of people's opinion when it comes to SuperCoach, but after having a chat with you today, JANATHS, you've really made me think differently. And Phils and I are great like that with each other. We bounce off each other really well. We're on the phone all the time, and we have some awesome conversations as well, Spills and I. So I think maybe the three of us, mate, might have to get together, have a bit more of a regular chat, because I think we're all pretty similar in the way we think about the game as well. Differences as well as has been displayed when we've been having a chat here tonight.
People. I think that's the biggest thing.
Exactly right, mate. Yeah. A bunch of great blokes, mate. We will definitely have to make this a regular thing. And I could sit here, to be honest, mate, chatting with you for all night, I think, about SuperCoach. And you've given me some really good questions to think about, as well as some answers to questions as well, and really confirmed some of my thinking, which is really good.
It goes likewise as well. Definitely.
Sometimes when you, as you know, you're thinking in your head, I'm pretty sure that I'm set with this, and I'm pretty sure I'm thinking about this right.
Tunnel vision, isn't it? You're blocking everything off.
That's right. It's sometimes not until you really nut it out with someone else that you do realise, hey, I may be making a mistake here, or maybe I should be considering this as well, or here's a different avenue to get a particular player. A big one for me has been Gibcus. I've pretty much, as we've been talking, I haven't actually been playing around with my side, but the first thing I'm going to do is get him out of the side as well. I think that I'll probably look to bring Baldwin or Martin into my side as well, at the expense of...
one of them at least.
yeah, maybe one of these 200K plays, it's going to be tough. But apart from that, I think that we're really thinking along similar lines.
Yeah.
I think, and I think what's great as well is the fact that you've got so many contingency plans that you've also talked us through. You know, in case this doesn't happen, I know that I can do this. Whereas I think people at times get so set on a team before the start of round one, then it might be even two players. It could come down to one or two players that don't get named that you assume that they are, and all of a sudden
you have to
everything's out of whack.
And to get rid of him, you need to get rid of him. And then...
It's the domino effect, isn't it? It's a domino effect. And then you're losing players that you've been so set on and done your research on all pre-season. And that's not a good thing to do a couple of days out before the start of round one. So I love the fact that you've thought about this. You've looked at some future planning here. And something I did mention before about McGovern, and this is another reason why I like that pick, is that he's pretty much guaranteed to be getting that DPP status as well. And if you're a bit worried about if you're not going with the Chapman, for example, if you're running two rookies in your defensive line, you're a little bit worried about that. Hopefully, at least in round 6, you can think to yourself.
Swing.
And you've got the McCartan swing as well. So if things go a little bit south, or they're looking to go a little bit south, then McGovern's pretty much a lock to be defended by round 6 as well. So that may be another little advantage to the McGovern selection, I think, as well. Even with Cherry, though, he's going to get that ruck DPP status.
There's going to be a lot of good DPP swings in here. Yeah.
Is that something? I need to finish this chat, but maybe is that something that swings back towards the Darcy fact? We only need to get him through the first 6 rounds, and then we're going to have Cherry. So maybe rather than going with someone like a Bruce, maybe Cherry could eventually be that man when we've got a Dixon there, or even a Hayes.
You need to start a forward ruck. That's the key thing. That's one thing I learned as well. If you're ever starting a cash cow ruckman, R3, have another ruckman in your team somewhere.
Yes.
Because otherwise you have to bring in a ruckman. And you don't want to do that.
That's
that happened
exactly
in the Draper
right.
year. Do you remember the Draper year when everyone had Conroy?
Yes,
and then when they brought in Draper, they had to get rid of Conroy. And then when they wanted to get rid of Draper, they had to bring back in Conroy. That's
exactly
2 trades.
right. Exactly
you
right.
Start a ruckman, you just move them, and you have one trade.
And that was one of my biggest spews this year with the DPP, that Rowan Marshall didn't get it. So I was pretty keen on starting Rowan in my starting side because of that link. You've got the 2 big boys there. You go set and forget. Or even I was thinking I'm always pretty much a set and forget man. But maybe, for example, if I didn't want to go set and forget, then having Marshall there in my forward line is that security maybe that I need. And the way to think about it is you've just got a rookie that would be the same as having a rookie in your forward line at whatever price, because you've got Marshall that can cover. So I think DPP is always king, but maybe you can potentially even ease off starting with so much DPP this year, with the hope that we don't know anything, but we are assuming that lots of these players will actually be getting DPP, which then will open up some links for us.
It's a hard assumption to make, though.
It is, yeah.
You don't want to come in with that assumption, because it could be the matter of a couple of percentages. And it's not a 6x6 round block. It's 6 rounds, and then when it turns again at 12, it's 1 to 12. It's not 7 to 12. So if a player's role change, say like Rory Laird 2 years ago, if his role changed in round 8, they don't check the 7 to 12 statistics. It's 1 to 12. Has he made up enough to get the mid DPP sort of?
That's a really important point as well, because some people may be assuming that it does go on that different blocks. So someone starts playing a different position around that round 7, round 8. Some people may say, well, great for, a 6-week block here. He's playing 4 weeks forward.
Solely for that purpose.
Yeah.
Bring them in because you want them in your team.
Great advice, mate. Great advice. And I think the only time you really take something like that into consideration would be it may be a little bonus for me. Yeah. It may be a little bonus. But as you mentioned before, don't pick it solely on that reason. Because a lot of it's guesswork. So with lots of these players, it's a bit of guesswork. But I think the best you can do is have an educated guess, do your research, talk to other people, and just go with what you think your gut feel is, or what you think's the most likely scenario to happen. There's lots of water to go under the bridge in regards to team selections. How would it be if we just had, and I wouldn't wish injury on anyone, but a really popular player bang goes down, and all of a sudden we're thinking, oh geez, a couple of days out for the season. There's so much stuff that can happen. So look, mate,
shoulda. anything.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. But look, hopefully you should really have your team pretty much like JANATHS does here at the moment. Have a contingency plan in case one or two players don't get up, and work out what you can do so you're not scrambling at the last minute. But JANATHS, I think I can say on behalf of everyone that's watched this video, we've gone for 2 hours now. So you may even view this as a bit of a podcast rather than a video. We've got a great screenshot here, obviously, of JANATHS' side. And we have gone through different plays here, or JANATHS he's just completely taken control today. I think he may even need to take over this channel, I think, and be the new host. But mate, thank you so much for sharing all of this great wisdom, knowledge and advice. Yeah, look, mate, thank you again for coming onto the channel. This will definitely have to be a more regular thing. Before you go though, mate, where can we find you? Because I reckon that you're going to get a few extra followers after the discussion that we've had today. Where's the best place for anyone to have a chat with you, get in contact, mate?
So yeah, my pretty frequent on Twitter at JANATHS4, just my name and then the number 4. Or on Instagram as well, JANATHSFernando1695. Pretty ironic because that's something to do with the Blues. For those that know, if you know, you know.
A big Blues man you are, mate. I love it, mate. I love it. I'll also put those links in the video description as well,
no
JANATHS. But mate, I keep on saying thanks, but I really do want to thank you for coming on. We'll chat again very, very soon.
We'll figure something out. I'm happy to come on to the pod whenever you need with Spills and yourself. I reckon we can get some good SuperCoach content pumped out there.
Awesome, mate. There'll be a fair bit of banter.
Depends how the reception to the video is. If it's good, I'll come on. If it's all right, I might come on. Regardless, I'll be on. But
excellent, mate. Love it, and everyone else will as well. Well, mate, we've been talking for a long time now. Been one of the best discussions we've had in a long time. Thanks again for coming on, mate. Take care, and I'm sure everyone will see you again soon, bud. Look after yourself, and all the best of luck coming into round 1, JANATHS.
Oh, too easy to love the chat. All right, talk to you soon, mate.
Good on you, JANATHS. Take care, buddy. Thanks again for that, dude. See you, mate. Bye. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to JANATHS as much as I did. I learnt a lot, and there may be a couple of slight changes that I may even make to my side after having a chat with him tonight. So thanks very much, as always, for your support. I have not forgotten about the last digit in the league code. It is 9. So jump in now, pop in that last digit. Good luck getting in. I think it'll fill up pretty quickly. But remember, there's always a SuperCoach with DR group if you can't manage to quite get in the league. So all the best, guys. Hope all is well, and I'll see you soon in my team reveal. Cheers, bye.